in this action program, I want to mention briefly the need to support the effort to gain the right to vote for Negroes all over this land, but particularly in the South and the Black Belt counties. As you know, we are working now in Selma, Alabama, getting ready to move in other Black Belt counties all over that state. Oh, if I would tell you some of the experiences that we've had, you would hardly believe it. I'm trying to do the simple thing of getting registered in order to vote as a citizen. In Dallas County, there are 15,125 Negroes of voting age. Only about 325 are registered. There are 14,000 white persons of voting age. 9,420 some odd are registered. This is a glaring pattern of discrimination. When a white person goes down to register, he's automatically registered. When a Negro goes to register, he confronts complex literacy tests with questions that a PhD in any field or a person with a law degree from the best law schools of our nation couldn't answer, to the even more difficult question of how many bubbles do you find in a bar of soap, and they tell me they ask questions like that occasionally. This is tragic indeed.
Afternoon. Welcome to a Voter Awareness Symposium. Conversations with our First Lady, Doris Gardner Ratliff, and special guest and our voter advocate, Camille Gaskin. Today, you will be privy to their conversation, which will cover an array of voting issues. We have three categories that we've divided them into, and those questions and answers will fall from registering to vote, to preventing voter suppression, to number 3, casting your vote. I encourage you to listen and to even now tell others about this recording, this video, so that others can watch it and gain valuable knowledge that can help them in the voting process. So let's begin now. I want you to welcome and thank our First Lady, Sister Doris Gardner Ratliff, who has had this passion for voting and for getting the word out. And so here we are today. Sister Ratliff.
Thank you. Thank you. And hello. Welcome to another session presented by the Jewels of Brentwood. To Dr. Carolyn Pickens and to Pam Sims, I appreciate your leadership and your support, and thanks for your confidence in me. We are here today to anticipate and address the numerous questions that you have on voting. I value the experience and wisdom of my longtime friend, Pam Gaston, who has graciously agreed to join us today to answer these questions. Let me give you a few more accomplishments about Pam Gaston. Pam serves as managing partner of Think IT Services, LLC. She has earned a Bachelor of Arts from the University of Texas at Austin and completed executive education at the University of Michigan School of Business. Pam is a former member of the board of directors of the Houston League of Women, where she has been an active member for 25 years. She is the founder and member of the graduate chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha in Missouri City, and served as its president and president of the charitable foundation organized by the chapter. Pam is committed to working to ensure that the arc of the moral universe continues to bend towards justice and to ensure that all eligible citizens participate fully in all aspects of this democracy. Welcome, Pam.
Thank you, First Lady. And it is just a joy to be here. Anytime that we can enlighten people, encourage people to become empowered to vote and exercise their most precious right of citizenship, I'm all in for that. So let's not waste any time and let's just get right to it.
Okay, that first section is registering to vote. And we have two questions now, Pam. The first one is, how do I register to vote? And then the second one is, what ID is needed within my county?
Those are excellent questions. For the first question, how do I register to vote? Pretty simple. You've got some choices there. If you like to do things online, you can go online to vote411.org. And as you see right on your screen, and there you can click on the register to vote, complete the form, print it, mail it, and you should get your voter registration. Or you can go in person to your county voter registrar's office. And in most Texas counties, that's the tax assessor collector's office. In Harris County, it's the county clerk's office. And in Fort Bend County, it's the county election administrator's office. All of those places you can go, or you can come to Brentwood Baptist Church on National Voter Registration Day, September 22nd. And we're going to do it again on September 23rd. And we'll register you to vote then. The second part of your question is, what ID is needed within my county? And every county has the same requirements in Texas. There are 7 forms of acceptable photo ID: your Texas driver's license, the Texas election identification card, the Texas personal identification card, your Texas handgun license, United States military identification card containing the person's photograph, and United States citizenship certificate. Those are for naturalized citizens, and it contains the person's photograph. You can also use your passport as photo ID.
Okay, Pam, thank you. Next question is, can I vote if my name and or address has changed since registering to vote?
Okay, that's one that comes up a lot. Your name and on your photo ID must match the name that's on the voter registration roll. So you have to, and if you move to a new county, you have to re-register to vote. Just to be safe, change your name and your driver's license and your passport before you change your voter registration to make sure that everything lines up. Now, what if you get married on September 23rd? You don't have time to get all that changed. Just go vote with the ID that you have if you're still living in the same county, and it'll be fine.
All right, thanks, Pam. If a teenager will be 18 by the election day, Tuesday, November 3rd, how soon can he or she register to vote?
Another excellent question, because you know young people are going to play a very important part in this upcoming election, and we want all our young people to get in the habit of voting. A teenager can register to vote in Texas at 17 years, 10 months. So anybody who is going to be 18 on election day can register to vote now. They've met that 17-year, 10-month at this point in time. So we need to get them registered. Next question.
Okay. In fact, we're going to take another section, and this is preventing voter suppression. As we examine the numerous reasons or stimulants for voter suppression, we find seeds of discrimination, racism, sexism, and poverty, which lead to unfair practices such as gerrymandering, names removed from voting lists, and even as of late, postal equipment, sorters, and even mailboxes being removed and workers denied overtime. This will be two questions. Can you take a moment to speak about the act we call voter suppression? Then will you tell us how this is impacting people to rethink the voting process?
Well, we could probably do a whole conversation, Doris, on voter suppression. It really is one of the things that gets me angry. Your vote, or as we call it, the franchise, is a fundamental right of citizenship, and any attempt to suppress or infringe upon that right is called voter suppression. Requirements of photo ID. Then you close DPS locations in minority neighborhoods. Purging the voter rolls because you may not have voted in some arbitrary length of time. And remember, voting is a right of citizenship. You shouldn't lose that right because you choose not to exercise it. Reduction in the number of polling places. That causes long lines. We saw in the primary, it's here in Texas at Texas Southern. The last person didn't get to vote until almost 1:30 in the morning. So we could just go on and on about acts of voter suppression. And what I want to remind our listeners is that the people who make these laws, these suppressive laws, are elected officials. They're elected members of your state legislature. And I really am going to encourage everyone to pay more attention to who we're electing in those positions, because that's important. Now, how are we rethinking our voting process? Well, a couple of things. You have to be very aware and woke about your status in advance of the deadline to register. You may say, oh, well, I registered to vote, 10 years ago. Well, just because you registered to vote, maybe just because you just voted recently, doesn't necessarily mean that your status is good as a voter. Go to votetexas.gov, votetexas.gov, click on the link to check my registration. You see it right there on your screen, and input your name, your county, and your birth date, and your registration status should appear or populate. So after you check your status, you now have to make a plan to vote to mitigate any type of roadblocks that have been thrown up. So in making this plan, you're going to pull down your sample ballot. You're going to decide when during the early voting period you're going to vote. And by the way, you can take that sample ballot into the voting booth with you. And finally, have a backup plan. You may decide, I'm going to vote by mail this year. Well, if that doesn't work out, you don't get your ballot timely in the mail, plan to vote on October 13th, which is the first day for early voting, or October 15th. Just make a plan and stick to it. And that way, we are now rethinking how we are going to mitigate the effects of this horrible, horrible voter suppression. Thank you for asking that question.
Okay, Pam, thank you. How can I check my voter registration status and confirm that my name has not been removed from the list of registered voters?
We're going to go back to the Am I Registered? You're going to go to votetexas.org. You're going to click on Am I Registered? You're going to select the option that allows you to put in your name, your county, and your date of birth. Your registration should populate, or you're going to get the dreaded voter not found message. If you get that message, immediately make a plan to get registered. I'm going to recommend right now that everyone who's watching this go check your status no later than September 15th. If you get the dreaded voter not found, no worries. Come to Brentwood Baptist Church, the LLC, on September 22nd or 23rd, and we'll get you registered to vote. But that's why you have to check your status early, so you still have time to get registered to vote.
Great, Pam. Great. When do I ask for a provisional ballot?
Never, never, never. You don't ever ask for a provisional ballot. The only time that a provisional ballot is offered is if you are there to vote and they tell you your name is not on the roll, and they'll offer you a provisional ballot. First thing, make sure you're attempting to vote in the correct county. Now that we have, now that you can vote anywhere in a county, it's real easy if you're living kind of on the fringes of the another county. You could be at a HEB or some voting location, and you think you're in Fort Bend County, and you're really in Brazoria County. And they'll say, "Well, your name's not on the roll. You may be in the wrong county. Make sure you're in the right county." Now, if you're in the right county and you get that your name's not on the roll, and it's during the early voting period, go home, refuse the provisional ballot, go home, get your voter registration card and bring it back, and then show them that, and they will fix it and you can vote. If it's on election day, and let's say it's 6 o'clock and you waited till the last minute to go vote and your name's not on the roll, then when they offer you a provisional ballot, fill it out. But I'm going to tell you right now, they don't count provisional ballots. So we're going to not have that situation occur. We're going to go vote early, and we're going to make sure that our status is good so that when we get to the polls, nobody's offering us a provisional ballot.
Okay, Pam. Great, great. Okay, this section is casting your vote. The first question is, who qualifies for a ballot by mail? If I qualify, how do I obtain one? And what is the deadline to request a ballot by mail?
All excellent questions. Only specific in Texas, there are only specific reasons that entitle a registered voter to vote by mail. And it's no longer called absentee voting. You often heard it called absentee voting. Now it's called voting by mail. You can request a ballot by mail if you will be away from your home county on election day and during the entire early voting period. So it's not just that you'll be out of town on election day, November 3rd. You have to be certified that you'll be out of town the entire early voting period and on election day. So 1, you can certify that you're going to be away. 2, you are disabled. 3, you are 65 years of age or older on election day, or you are confined to jail and have not been convicted of a felony. Now, remember, everybody that's in jail is not there for a felony. A lot of people in jail are misdemeanors. People who have misdemeanors, even if they've been convicted of a misdemeanor, can still vote. The only people who can't vote are people who have been convicted of a felony. So if you know of someone who is in jail, and they've not been convicted of a felony, they're eligible to vote. And there's an organization called Justice for All, and I've done work with them. I've gone to the jail and registered voters, and they do good work. So just get in contact with Justice for All, and they'll do their absolute best to see that the person you want them to register can get registered. Great question. Now, what's the deadline to request a ballot by mail? The deadline is October 23rd. Please don't do that. We know we're having problems with the U.S. mail. And understand this, the deadline is October 23rd. That means your clerk's office has to have received the request by October 23rd. You cannot put it in the mail on October 23rd. But just don't wait that long. Just go ahead and get your ballot, your application rather. Now, what you can do is you can go online to your county clerk or your elections administration office website, and I think we have the little links for that. There they are. Harris Votes, Fort Bend Votes, BraziliaCountyClerk.net. Write those down for whatever county you're in. You can go there, you can download an application for ballot by mail, and you can send it in. You do have to put postage on your application for ballot by mail. And I'm going to encourage all of you, if you want to vote by mail, if you qualify, get it in by September 15th. Just go right now and download it as soon as you finish watching this. Download it, print it out, fill it out, and stamp it and mail it. And that way you can get your ballot in early October. The clerks and election clerks will be mailing out the ballots, the official ballots, anywhere from the last week of September to the first week of October. So, and you want to get your ballot, and remember, when you get it, you can fill it out and mail it right back in, and then you won't have problems. And we'll talk about how else you can do it a little later in
Okay. Okay, Pam. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's remind everyone, Pam, of these dates. The last day to register to vote, early voting, and the general election date. Can I vote anywhere in my county?
Okay, in all of the counties around us, you can vote anywhere in the county. But let's talk about these dates. The last day to register to vote is Monday, October 5th. The first day of early voting, they call it early voting by personal appearance, that's in-person early voting, is Tuesday, October 13th. The last day to apply for a ballot by mail, I just told you that, is Friday, October 23rd. And again, it has to be received, not postmarked. The last day of early voting by personal appearance is Friday, October 30th. And the last day to receive a ballot, for the clerk's office to receive a voted ballot by mail, is Tuesday, November 3rd, which is election day, at 7 p.m. If the carrier envelope, that means the envelope that your ballot is in, is not postmarked, or Wednesday, November 4th, if it is postmarked by 7 p.m. So that's a lot on that thing right now. If you take your ballot in, and you've heard about you can have drop off. If you take your ballot in, you can take it to the county clerk's office by 7 p.m. Or if you have mailed it, it has to, they can receive it by November 4th, but it has to have been postmarked on election day. Okay. Now, if you're overseas or a military voter, they have different deadlines. But I think I'm mostly talking to people here today who are regular voters.
Okay. Okay, Pam. That's great information. How do I locate my polling place, and how do I get a sample ballot?
Okay. And let me say this. Sample ballots are essential this year because there are going to be very, very long ballots. It starts out with the president at the top, and it's going to go all the way down to, in some localities, like in Brazoria County, I think the city of Pearland has a mayor's election. Missouri City has mayor and city council elections. All of those are going to be on the ballot. So it's very important to get a sample ballot. You can go to these sites. Again, Harris Votes, if you're in Harris County, and they make it real easy in Harris County. You just click on the thing that says sample ballot. Well, you put in your address and then click for get my sample ballot, and your individualized ballot will show up. In Fort Bend, you need to know your precinct number. It's a 4-digit number. It starts with 1, 2, 3, or 4. And you can find that number on your voter registration card. And Brazoria County, Montgomery County, and Galveston County, all pretty much the same. You can go in, put in your address, and it will populate immediately your sample ballot. Then you can print it out and go right ahead.
Okay, what are the various ways college students can vote?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, if your student is not living at home and going to, if the student is going to virtual online school and they're living in the house with you, they can vote the same way you do. They won't be able to vote by mail because they're under 65 and they're not away from home. But if you have a student who is away from home, they can apply for a ballot by mail. And but I recommend for college students, if a college student is at Prairie View or UT or somewhere in Texas where they can come home for the weekend, have them come home and vote. It's just easier. I've had so many college students that have gotten ballots by mail, and I've called to follow up. And they say, oh, I got it, but I don't know what I did with it. Can I get another one? No, you can't. So just, but you know, if they're in Nebraska or somewhere, they're going to have to vote by mail. Get them to do the same thing you do. By September 15th, pull down that application for ballot by mail, fill it out, mail it in, and wait for their ballot to come in the mail. And then mom and dad, auntie, uncle, grandparents, whoever, just bug them. Keep bugging them until they fill it out and mail it in.
Okay. Good advice, Pam. The next 2 questions are, should I mail my ballot to the clerk's office, or is there a more direct way to get it to that office? And the next question is, can I drop my ballot in a drop box or at the registrar's office?
Okay, a lot of confusion around that, and I'm so glad you asked that one. You can mail your ballot in, or you can take your ballot in person. When you take your ballot in, you are going to have to show photo ID, and you're going to have to sign just like you do when you go in to vote in person. You're going to have the little book there where you sign. A lot of folks think that, you know, oh, we can drop my ballot off in a drop box. Well, no, it's not like going to a blue mailbox and you just put it in. They're going to have people stationed at the various county annexes and at NRG uh, field or stadium, where you can drive by, you can give them a clerk your ballot, your voted ballot envelope. You can sign and you can keep motoring on, but you are going to have to show your ID and all of that. But yes, you can take your ballot in. If you really worried about the mail, you know, if you live somewhere where you've noticed your mail has been delayed, you can take it in, not a problem.
Okay. All right. Pam, the next two questions are, how can I vote if I am disabled? And can I take any materials into the voting booth?
Oh, those are good. And before I get to those, I do want to tell you this. If you decide to take your ballot to the clerk's office, you, the voter, have to do it.
Okay.
If you're talking to your neighbor and your neighbor says, girl, I'm going down and turn my ballot in, you can't say, oh, wait a minute here, take mine with you when you go. No, each voter must turn in their own because they're going to ask you for ID. And so, you know, you can't just gather up everybody's stuff on the street and be helpful. No, just everybody has to take their own. Now, how can I vote if I'm disabled? And can I take materials into the voting booth? Curbside voting. We've had curbside voting in Texas for 4 or 5 years, and a lot of folks, you know, are just finding out about it. Voters who are physically unable to enter the polling location without assistance or likelihood of them injuring their health can ask the presiding election official, called the election judge, to allow them to vote outside. And this is a service that has to be offered. It's required by law. So if you have taken a loved one, a friend, a neighbor to the polls who is in a wheelchair or has difficulty walking, standing, navigating, you get their ID, you go into the poll, you ask for the election judge or the election worker, and you say, I have a person who wants to curbside vote. They will bring a machine to the car, so that person does not have to get out. And that's just a great service. In some locations, they have what they call curbside buzzers, and you can go and buzz and say, I've got someone outside I've got someone out here who needs to vote. They'll come out, they'll take the ID and give them a machine to vote. So that's a great convenience. You asked about taking your sample ballot into the poll with you.
Yes,
you can, because like I said, it's going to be a very long ballot. You know I can't remember every race that's on there and who I'm going to vote for. I do want to remind people again that this year we do not have straight party voting. You know, it used to be you could say, I'm just going to vote for all the Democrats and do that. And let me tell you two things to look for this year. One, you're going to have to vote the entire ballot. On the partisan elections, everything from the president down to, I think, the sheriff and constables and all of those are by party. So they will have DEM for Democrat or REP for Republican. At the end of the ballot is going to be your municipal nonpartisan elections. And that's where you're going to vote for your mayors, for your city council people. And I'm not sure if there are any school boards that hold their elections in November, but those are nonpartisan also. So that's why you want to take that sample ballot in so that you know who you're voting for, so that you have researched on vote411.org the candidates, because you can go on there, find out about every candidate, and you can check your ballot and take it in with you. And that way, you're going to be an informed and prepared voter. And that's going to ensure that our democracy works, because it's not going to work if we don't all vote. And we see where we are now today. And just remember, the next time you're in a crowd of people, I say a crowd, if you're with 10 people, if you look and you say, pick out 3, that's about who's been deciding who's running our country all this time. 30% or fewer of the voters. So you look around and you see 3 people and you say, would I want any of those 3 people to decide for me? No, don't give up your right to vote. In the musical Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton sings his song. He says, I'm not going to lose my shot. This is my shot. And your vote is like your shot. Don't give it up. Don't give it up, because once you give it up, you might find yourself trying to chase it. So be informed, be vigilant, and be empowered.
Pam, thank you so much. Just great, great information. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you and how great it is to see you. And you take care of yourself. And I just can't stress enough how much we appreciate the knowledge, the passion that you have about this subject. And we just really do appreciate it. Now, I hope that everybody on this call will remember that nothing comes easy. Historically, we have had to fight for whatever we got in our community. Aren't you outraged that anyone would try to keep us from exercising a right that we have earned? So we can't stop now. We must vote, and vote early, beginning October 13th. And of course, election day is November 3rd. If you use mail-in, be your own mail carrier. Don't allow anyone to discourage you. I plan to take some people with me to vote. And use Pam as an example. She's had a great wealth of knowledge today, and we so appreciate it. She's devoted and she's passionate. Sign people up. Use her as an example. Sign people up and encourage people. She's done that while she waited in line at the grocery store. She's registered people in the over 55 living apartments. You didn't know I knew that, did you, Pam? On September 22nd and 23rd, she mentioned Brentwood will hold a voter registration headed by Pam, Davita Porter, and Mary Quincy. We at Brentwood Baptist Church are doing everything in our power to assist in this process. Now it's up to you. So vote. This is a very, very important election. Vote. I thank you for listening. I thank you for, in advance of what you're going to do this election season. And now, here's Dr. Pickens.
Well, I know you all are just filled up with so much good information that you can't wait to share with your neighbors and friends and family. And I'm excited because I have even some more excitement about this, and I'm going to be spreading the word even more. So with that said, let's give a round of applause. I know we're going to hear you all over Houston and the community for these ladies who have shared with us today, Sister Doris Gardner Ratliff and Sister Tamia. I always have to put voter advocate for Mia Gaskin because she is just such a, for me, an
Yes.
inspiration. And now you've done it again. I tell you, you're
Thank you.
knowledgeable about this field. And so when I think of her, I think of this quote from John Lewis: "The vote is precious, it is
Mm.
almost sacred. It's the most powerful nonviolent tool we have in a democratic society. We've got to use it. Use your tool." And as we go out today, thank you for tuning in. I know we had to push past the beginning because we had another plan, but God had another one. So you tell everybody you know about this video so that they can come and watch it and take notes and learn and share it with whoever they wish to share it with. Because, oh, here's somebody for me to share it with. I knew she just couldn't stay away. That's my little great granddaughter. But share it with whoever you want to share it with, because voting is so very important. Now, as this symposium began with a king, we're going to end it with quotes from a president.
Across this country in 2016, there are those who are still trying to deny people the right to vote. We've got to push back twice as hard. Right now, in multiple states, Republicans are actively and openly trying to prevent people from voting, adding new barriers to registration, cutting early voting, closing polling places in predominantly minority communities, refusing to send out absentee ballots, kicking people off the rolls, often incorrectly. It should be a national scandal. We were supposed to have already won that fight. We're the only advanced democracy in the world that is actively discouraging people from voting. It's a shame. Then they try to justify it by telling folks that voter fraud is rampant. Between 2000 and 2012, there were 10 cases of voter impersonation nationwide. 10. People don't get up and say, I'm going to impersonate somebody and go vote. They don't do that. Meanwhile, some of the same folks who are trying to keep you from voting turn a blind eye when hundreds of thousands of people are killed by guns. Imposing voter ID restrictions so that a gun license can get you on the ballot, but a student ID can't. Apparently more afraid of a ballot than a bullet. No, our work's not done. But if we are going to advance the cause of justice and equality and prosperity and freedom, then we also have to acknowledge that even if we eliminated every restriction on voting, we would still have one of the lowest voting rates among free peoples. That's not good. That is on us. And I am reminded of all those folks who had to count bubbles in a bar of soap. Beaten trying to register voters in Mississippi. Risked everything so that they could pull that lever. So if I hear anybody saying their vote does not matter, then it doesn't matter who we elect. Read up on your history. It matters. We've got to get people to vote.
Come on, everybody, put your hands together. It's got to get better. All over the world, listen to these words. People come. People come. People go. People go. Your life has been out of control. You're confused. But don't worry. Don't worry your soul.